something in 5 words.
Solutions to make the world a better place. That's what we do. So scientists create new ideas and engineers make them into practical, real world, tangible objects to make the world a better place. So clean living, so talking about wind turbines to get us off cold, off gases burning and back to the environment onto clean burning energy.
Yeah.
Richard?
I would entirely agree that an engineer solves problems. That is the beauty of engineering, solving problems, and they can be different problems every day, which is what makes it so interesting.
How long does it take from building a rocket to launching it into space?
Richard?
Oh, that's a very good question. Oh gosh, it depends on how big a team you have, really, and you can build a rocket that you could put into space probably in between 3 to 6 months if you put enough work into it, if you had a big team of people working on it. If it was just one person working on it, it would take a lot longer. It would probably take a year or two to do it. But certainly if you had a team, a good big team, you'd probably, yes, you could do it in maybe 3 to 6 months.
But the one big factor of that is how big the rocket is. So we have some small rockets we can do quite quick. Once you start to scale up towards, say, larger rockets like Britain's Black Arrow, the Saturn V that went to the moon, then we start going from months to years. Sometimes you can take a project, could be a 10-year project. The space shuttle took a long time through development and testing. So takeaway answer is the bigger the rocket in terms of height, then the longer it takes to build and design. So you've got a lot more factors to think about.
What is the most challenging part of building a rocket?
I think I'm going to jump in this one and say the engines. I mean, that's me speaking personally. I deal with the engine side. So in a rocket engine, you've got to contain roughly about 3,000 degrees, very high pressures that can be on the magnitude of 40 to 200 times what we feel now in everyday atmospheric pressure. And we've got to contain this in a very small volume. So you've got high temperature and high pressure. And then you've got an oxidizer. So in our fire triangle, we use oxygen for our oxidizer, and that wants to rust all parts of the engine. So you've got to protect the engine against rust. You've also got a lot of, the engine shakes when it works. You've got to protect it from shaking. You've got to protect it from the high temperatures, the high pressures. And this is all in a very small volume. Also, you've got to move the fluid, your propellants, like your petrol in a car. You've got to move it from your tanks to your engine. And we use pumps. And now pumps have a lot of spinning parts. And the more parts you have, the higher the complexity. And then therefore, the higher chance of something going wrong. So personally, I would say the engines.
I definitely agree. The engine is by far the most complicated part of a rocket. Everything else is simple compared to the engine.
And most rocket failures that you see, generally, the very high percentage, the majority is due to engine failures because of the complexity of them.
But that's why they're so exciting, because the engine is the bit where all the flame comes out of and all the noise comes out of. So engines are the exciting part of the rocket.
What inspired you to become an engineer?
There you go, Nicola.
So I didn't actually know straight away that I wanted to be an engineer. I actually studied physics at uni, and I was mostly interested in the solar system and how things worked on a small and a big scale. and I found that engineering was just the best way to apply that sort of knowledge. So it was the interest in how everything works in a fundamental scale, and then try to find out ways to build upon that knowledge and create practical, useful things out of it.
Jane?
I think mine was stemmed from when I was growing up. There was many space shuttle launches, and I didn't know much about space. And then you would turn on the TV and see this, what looked like an aircraft strapped to the sides of big tanks and then flown vertically into space. And I just thought that was the coolest thing I've ever seen. I knew I wanted to get involved into that space sector.
Similarly for me, from when I was very small, I saw rockets on the television and saw the first moon landing even, and seeing rockets taking off. Oh wow, that was it. As far as I was concerned, I wanted to work with rockets, and ever since I've just worked on anything to do that would get me into working with rockets. So if you do physics, if you do chemistry, mathematics, science subjects, these are all ways that can get you working with rockets. And it's just very, very exciting. Very exciting.
What is your favourite part of the engineering process?
I'm going to jump on this one. Definitely the testing. So when you test, you came to the end, well, it's close to the end of your engineering journey. The testing is it summarizes everything that you've done before, because you actually, everything you've put onto paper, you've designed, you've simulated. Here's where you come to test, has it worked? So when it does work, it's a great time of satisfaction that your designs worked. But testing is also shows where problems go wrong. So it's a very challenging time. You will come across issues and problems that you probably haven't expected. You have to go away and work as a team and think, what are we doing wrong? How can we fix it? And you have to apply all your engineering knowledge again to fix them issues. Never does testing go perfect. You'll always have some kinks in the system to iron out. But testing is the part when you do hands-on. So we start assembling our stuff. But in terms of engines, that's when we start test firing our engines, and we see a lot of flame out the back. Because before that point, then it's just all on PCs and on pieces of paper, our designs and our simulations and calculations.
I like anything where it launches. Anything where you see the rocket going straight up and you see the flame coming out of the back of it. You feel the roar of the engine, and it's so loud, it hits you in the stomach. It really, the vibrations from the sound of the rocket is fantastic. So definitely launch is my favourite. Nicola?
So far, it's definitely been trying to work out how everything works. But I've never seen a launch before or seen an engine test before, even though we'll get to do it in a couple of weeks. So that'll probably become my favourite part very soon.
Brian from Primary 7-6.
How do you start the fire at the bottom
So
of the rocket?
So what we do, we'll have an ignition source. So normally in a rocket engine, you could have basically a smaller rocket engine that gets fired into your bigger engine to start it. We just need a heat source, something to get the two propellants when they mix to start combustion process. But what's unique to Skyrora is we use something called high-test peroxide as an oxidizer. Now, this science might be a bit too high level. Basically what we do, we can get this propellant and we put it through a catalyst, which is just basically another element that's arranged in a mesh. So if you've ever sieved anything in the kitchen, it looks like that kind of mesh. And when we put it through, it decomposes. So it basically splits from this nice clear liquid into hot oxygen and water in terms of steam, at a nice high temperature of around 600 degrees. when we inject our fuel, it has the temperature already, the activation energy to start combustion. So we don't actually use anything tangible to start the process. It's naturally occurring for our engines. But normally you would have basically a very simplified type of lighter system to use for your engines.
When JJ says a lighter system, that could be like a little spark, or it could be like a little flame. So it's almost like a little lighter, the type of little lighters that are used to light a cooker or something like that. It's very, very simple, very simple.
What materials do you use to build the outside of the rocket?
Oh, that's a very good question. And it's a very interesting question because there's lots of choices. You need a material that works at very high temperature. And there are various materials you could use, such as carbon fiber or titanium or aluminium, and all of these. The common thing about them is that they're very, very lightweight. You have to use materials that don't weigh very much, because a rocket depends on it being very, very lightweight in order to carry all the fuel it needs to get into space. If you make your rocket very heavy and you use materials that are heavy, like say steel, thick steel or something like that, then the rocket wouldn't travel very far because it would be too heavy to take off. But if you make it very light, so it can carry more of its fuel, it means the rocket can accelerate, it can go faster, and it eventually then gets into space. So generally, yes, we would go with things like carbon fiber, aluminium, or titanium.
How many attempts does it take to get the design of the rocket?
That's a very good question, and it's one we can't give a set answer to because for each different project it's different. So from my past experience, you will always change your design going forward. You could have up to 50 to 100 different designs for a small one. For a larger one, you could have many different iterations, again, hundreds of different design changes. If you then look at smaller parts, then you could have many more design changes on them. So I think this goes back to the question of how long it takes to build a rocket. Smaller rockets go through less design changes, and very larger rockets go through a lot more. So it's all based on the complexity of the vehicle.
What's the main mechanical part inside the rocket?
The engine, definitely the engine. The other bits are just you have tanks which are big, and if they don't have any fuel in them, they're empty, so they're just air inside them. You have the electronics, which is used to guide the rocket, and they are often very, very small. So the main part is the engine, and it's also the most exciting part because it's the part which makes all the smoke, all the flame, all the noise. I will ask my colleague here to see what he says, but I think he will probably agree. JJ?
Yeah, totally. The one thing about rockets people don't understand is, in essence, they're very simple. They're very hard to engineer because of the environments that you have to operate in, how far they have to go. A lot of the systems are autonomous. Basically, all rocket launches you see today is unmanned. So it means that computers control where the rocket goes, how far it goes, when to cut off. But in terms of actual mechanical moving parts in the rocket, it's quite small. Some rockets have no moving parts at all. If you compare this to, say, an engine on a car, the car has pistons, valves, crankshafts, shims. It has many moving parts. Mechanically, it looks very challenging, but a rocket engine is very simple. Nothing moves. The only moving parts in an engine is the pumps, which will put pressure to your fuel to be able to move your propellant through your engine. But trying to get the rocket to work in the environment it does creates a lot more complexity. But in essence, a rocket is very simple in design. You have tanks, an engine, an outer structure, and electronics.
How long does it take a rocket to reach space?
Oh, brilliant question. That's a very, very good question as well, because if you're just going up to space to 100 kilometers, because of how fast a rocket goes, it can only take a few minutes, maybe 4 or 5 minutes to get to space. But if you want to go to orbit, so you want to put a satellite into orbit around the Earth, or you want to send astronauts to the space station, it generally takes about 9 minutes or so to get to orbit. So it takes maybe 4 or 5 minutes to get to space and 9 minutes to get to orbit. So it's not actually very long at all to get into space. But because space is so big, it then takes a long time to go anywhere in space. So if you want to get to the space station from when you've got into space, it can take maybe a day to catch up with it and dock with it. And if you want to go to the moon, it would take 3 days. Or if you wanted to go, say, to Mars, it would take 6 months to 9 months to get there. But just to get into space, it takes minutes. It's not very far at all.
Just to put that into perspective, space is we call the line the common line 100 kilometers high. My accent, I'm from Liverpool. Liverpool is 230 miles away from Edinburgh. So space is a lot closer than my hometown in Liverpool. That's how close space is and people don't realise.
Do you ever think we will live in space?
So we actually do already live in space. There's normally about 6 astronauts on the International Space Station at any one time. And what they do is they'll stay there for a period of about 6 months normally. And they'll conduct experiments and live in space and study how their body changes in that sort of environment. And probably one day we'll have more people up there as well. We'll just like expand and build on that.
Yeah, at the moment, there's various companies around the world that are pushing to colonize Mars. So as humans, we've already been to the moon. Now the next big milestone, you say, is Mars. So companies like NASA and SpaceX, that's their end goal, to create big rockets to take humans to Mars. Now, the Mars environment, it's not very nice. You need a lot of systems to keep you alive. Why would you want to go? On Earth, it's nice and sunny. Okay, Scotland's nice and sunny today. It was windy yesterday, but we don't have to worry about oxygen levels. On Mars, at the moment, we haven't found much biological life in terms of plants, so you have to take your own food with you. It's quite scary, but as humans, we need to go because you got to think, what happens if something happens to Earth? Let's say a nasty virus breaks out and it goes around and we have to move away and get to Mars. We need to colonize in the solar system.
I agree with JJ that we have to move out into the solar system. I'm planning on going skiing on Mars, so I think that there will be an opportunity for people to visit Mars, not too long away as well. And as JJ says, we need to go out to the other planets because of the dangers on Earth. We could get hit by an asteroid, or we could have various illnesses that affect lots of people. So it makes a lot of sense to have colonies of people living in the solar system on other planets or in space. So yes, I think that will happen.
What is your favourite rocket ever made?
Oh.
I'm going to be a bit cliche and pick Black Arrow. Now, Black Arrow, Skyrora, we actually brought back to the UK. The reason I picked it was because when I was doing my studies at university, that was the one rocket that the UK had built and launched. The UK is the only country in the whole world that had a rocket and access to space, and we give it up. Now, Black Arrow fell. It went up, it successfully launched a satellite called Prospero, and then it fell in Woomera in Australia. So that's where it got launched from. And we brought it back last year, and we put it on display in January. So that Black Arrow is the vehicle that got me into the rocket side and the propulsion, and is what inspired me.
Do you think aliens exist?
I'm going to expand on that a little bit. So I'm going to change the wording a bit. So I believe life exists outside of Earth. Yes, I do. That life could be intelligent or unintelligent. It could be just plants. It could be bacteria. But I do believe there is, because the size of our universe, there's many planets like Earth that we call in the Goldilocks zone that has the right conditions to support life. So in terms of carbon-based life, yes, out there. Now, does it mean that they fly around in spaceships and the little green men? No, I don't believe that.
Is there life out there? Yes, I think there has to be life out in space, because space is so enormously big. In terms of how that life is formed, I don't think we have any idea. All I can say is, yes, I think life exists. It has to exist. But I don't think it's in the form of little green men. It would be great if it was, but I don't think it is. It could be any form. Why does life, for instance, have to be like us? It could be intelligent octopuses living in the sea that have developed their own civilization. It could be anything, and because of that, we can't really work out what form that life will take. Nicola?
Yeah, there's definitely going to be some form of life out there. There's billions and billions of stars and trillions of galaxies out there that it's statistically impossible for us to be the only source of life. But as others have said, it's probably not in the form of little green men, even though it could possibly be. It can probably come in any form, intelligent or unintelligent. But the chances are it is out there somewhere, just we might not ever come across it.
Right, guys, I want to say thank you all for your questions. They were all amazing. And if you ever want to follow anything about rockets, and I do suggest you all look up Black Arrow and try and see how Britain used to get access to space, and then see what our challenges of designing the next evolution of that for the UK. So again, thank you very much. I just want to say, Mr. Potter, thank you very much for organising this.
Let me just say a big thank you for giving up your time as well. That was absolutely excellent and very interesting.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.